And we're live.
Yabba dabba doo.
Alive and live. Or live and alive. I like the sound of that better. Sounds a little bit, I don't know, more catchy.
I've been alive.
I grabbed a drink from, I've never seen this before, but it's a carbonated mineral water called Topo Chico.
Ooh, I heard of that.
Yeah, it sounded familiar. Like something happened when when you see something on a shelf or you see something in a little store, and something happens where you have yeah, you just know you've heard of it before, but you don't know where.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened to me with this drink, and then it compelled me to buy it. What just shows that probably there was some advertising along the way that just reeled me in. It could have been like 5 years ago too. Just planted
Yeah.
it into my brain. I've never bought this drink ever, and
How
I've never seen it anywhere. And that's part of the compelling process, I guess.
the power of suggestion.
Yeah. Also, it
I
seems
suggest
like we're having some
that you
issues. It might be on my end, because it looks like YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Oh, okay, never mind. It's probably just going to look low quality for a little bit, possibly. But that's okay. As long as it keeps streaming, I think it's fine.
I suggest you tell me how it tastes.
All right, let's get a good sound bite here.
Ooh.
That felt like that was kind of anticlimactic. You know, I expected a more of a hiss from the carbonation. It's kind of
I thought
upsetting.
the clicks sounded good.
The clicks did sound good, but you get that with a bottle of water, you know? Like, this is supposed to... I mean, it's mineral water. It's not flavored.
It's just sparkling water.
It's just sparkling water. I mean, it's good.
Yeah.
It tastes like water. Like sparkling water. Mineral
How
water.
how aggressive is the bubbles?
It's nice. It's a good balance. I would say it's not too aggressive, not too light, despite there not being a hiss when you open it.
Because
That's good. That's nice.
it's
I do like that.
it's a unique
Seal it.
experience drinking carbonated water.
It is. You know, it's kind of a. I feel like it's almost an imitation effect of like you're drinking less good soda. Like everyone knows when they take a drink of like just plain sparkling water, they know it's not going to be as good as soda, but it gives you that bubbly feel that just tricks you, you know?
Well, yeah, it's a very immersive experience. And for somebody who is doing a bunch of mundane stuff throughout the day, someone might drink several LaCroix, if not a 12 pack of LaCroix in one day, because they need the stimulation. They need to be stimulated in such a
Yeah.
way that, hey, bubbly water is better than bubbly sugar water.
True.
And I was just looking at this the other day. There's this guy named Timbaland, and he was like he's one of the most prolific hip hop producers in the last 25 years. He was drinking a limoncello LaCroix on his stream the other day.
I've had those. I don't like
Oh
them.
my
The
god.
limoncello, no. You got to
Oh,
just get lemon. Just get
oh
lemon.
my god, limoncello. It's like they tried to turn a dessert into a bubbly water
Yeah.
and failed miserably.
You know, I saw, speaking of desserts, that things that shouldn't be desserts, I saw a sugar cookie Dove commercial. Like Dove soap, body soap.
Yeah.
Was like, why don't you put the sugar cookie on your body? There was one that was like peppermint bark. Like, that's a little bit more reasonable. But I don't want to put like a product that's supposed to be a food, smells like a food on my body. I don't want to smell like a sugar cookie.
Yeah, it's a little far.
Like, what's happened? We've gone so beyond, like, they're smelling good. Like, there's, like, you want to smell like flowers. Fine. You want to smell like all these different things. But sugar cookies, cake, chocolate, like, why is that a smell that we're trying to imitate? In the wild, we'd be killed. You know what would happen? You'd be walking in the woods and a creature would kill you because you smell like a sugar cookie.
No, those creatures don't want sugar
Yeah,
cookies.
they'd love some sugar cookies. Some ants. You're probably just inviting the ants. Speaking of ants, I have the bathroom. Like, I'm thinking about it from, like, I'm never getting that product.
Yeah.
It
Oh
just makes
God.
more ants come. And imagine, they'd probably find you in your sleep, crawl into your bed because you smell like sugar cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way that, like, who thought of that? Who thought that, like, this is something that people want to buy? Sugar cookie soap.
It's corporate America, dude, in the postmodern era. What do you expect? Our soap smells like cookies, and our cookies taste like soap at this point, man. Everything is upside down.
Yeah, it's like that guy. Like, we watched him on, like, one of the streams who said, like, I'm trying to promote cereal for breakfast. I really think that a lot of America, well, not for breakfast, for dinner. He said, like, cereal for dinner. I
Yeah.
think in a hard economic time, we could really see the cereal sales go up, and I think a lot of Americans are just accepting that they can just put a mouthful of sugary corn in their mouth every night for dinner. It's like, what is
It's
this?
it's a low cost solution for consumers to
Yeah.
eat sugar grains for every meal.
You know what would happen to that guy back, like, even in the medieval period? Like, if somebody, like, said, like, let them eat cake, that the lady who did that, wasn't she, like, killed? Like, wasn't she hunted in, like, the streets? Like, the masses literally were like, the fuck did you just say? And cake is, like,
About
not, it's
cake?
the bottom. Like, the crazy thing is, let them eat cake doesn't actually mean let them eat cake. It's actually an insult, because back then, cake was, like, what's on the bottom of a pan after you bake bread. It's just, like, leftover, like, just
Mm.
like little, just like little crumbs and stuff. So basically saying let them eat the crumbs at the bottom of the bread pan. And they basically, I think they ended up killing her, if I'm not mistaken. I think, like, there were, like, revolts in the streets, like, people were angry. If that guy said that back in the day, he'd be right on the chopping block. Like, someone would have
It's the
jumped
same
out
it's
of the
the same
bushes.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Big time.
Yeah,
They
let
would
him
have
eat
put her
cake. Let him eat the cereal. Like,
thrown him in the stocks, thrown cake at him.
yeah. He wouldn't have been able to be protected. Like, the rest of, like, elite society would be like, sorry, you said we can't say that. They're gonna, like, we don't want him to come after us. So they'd probably give him up. They probably, like, the Kellogg's company would have come out of the headquarters with him, like, tied up and given him back to the people and would have said, sorry, we don't know. Sorry, we'll let you have him. That's a crazy statement.
It
Cereals
is
for
crazy.
breakfast. Boy, Kellogg's. Like,
No,
I think of the
you know what,
cornflakes.
dude? No, it's not. It's not for breakfast. It's not.
I mean, I don't eat, like, all those
It's
products for
not for
breakfast, but
breakfast,
it's
dude.
more of a dessert if you think about it. It really is. But at
Yeah.
least in the breakfast, at least it's not like he's advocating for it to be the only meal. Because he's like, you already have this for breakfast. I know you do, target consumer. Why don't you try it for dinner as well? Hell, he probably would eventually be like, economy slows down even more. He's like, well, I know that last week I said cereal for dinner, and a lot of you have had to make that change in your life. How about we try cereal for lunch? Then he's like, yeah, cereal
I
every
think
part of the day.
his
This could be your
campaign
full
is
diet.
cereal for non-breakfast meals. I think is what I think he was already going for lunch. I think he was going for it,
He probably was
which makes
implying.
sense. Yeah, definitely, definitely. The food, it's not for breakfast, dude. It's not. You can't even consider it food. And end of story. You can eat it if you want, if you're an adult, but it shouldn't be going inside of its key demographic. It's like it's like they create superheroes for all these breakfast foods, which are they're so addictive because of the sugar, the artificial colors and sweeteners, chemicals. Then they make a superhero as propaganda for this food. So they've created a mythical allure to an addictive food item that is unnatural, and we have seen it explode into an industry that has an entire aisle that you walk down, both sides. You got birds, you got animals, you got
a pirate, a Captain Crunch.
One of them, literally, they don't even try to disguise it. They just got small cookies, and you eat that for breakfast.
Cookie Crisp. That is it is crazy.
They don't even disguise it.
The audacity. I mean, that's an insane thing too. That someone came to the table and was like, "Look, I know we've tried. We've done a lot of like healthy marketing and everything. Hear me out. Cut the crap. Cookies in a bowl.
Tiny little cookies.
Yeah. It's insane. I mean, even the like even Oops All Berries, it has always been like fascinating to me. It's the same thing, except they just put in the red ones and the blue ones, or whatever. Like, you know, they just were like, oh, we just put in 2 colors. A small alteration. I don't even know anybody who like, even as a like, I didn't eat a lot of the sugary cereals when I was a kid, because I actually had parents, or a parent, but the like people who like, even like, you know, even on rare occasions, like sometimes like, you know, a little like treat every now and then, right? So like I kind of knew like some of the mix. So you'd go to a friend's house and you'd have some, right? I knew of like the different flavors, and I knew of like, you know, what cereals were popping back in the day. Nobody liked Oops Just Berries. I never saw anybody eat that Oops Just Berries, and it's still around.
I never heard of that.
Yeah, they have the Oops All Berries. It's just the same thing. It's the same product with just the 2 colors. Or 1 color. I don't even know how many colors they put in there.
It's like Cookie Crisps, Oops Just Berries?
No, it's Captain Crunch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Captain Crunch.
Yeah, the Oops Just Berries.
Okay.
It's ridiculous to me. Ridiculous.
It's all horseshit. I will say Reese's Puffs was really good back in the day.
See,
Reese's Puffs.
I couldn't have it.
Peanut butter chocolate flavor. Yeah. So in that one, they didn't have a mascot, but they had a sick DJ. And the whole idea was like he was mixing up, you know, like they do the DJs. But it was peanut butter and chocolate were the 2 discs that he was spinning. And there was peanut butter balls and chocolate balls. Peanut butter chocolate flavor.
I remember those commercials too.
No,
I felt left out because I can't have peanut butter, for the audience that doesn't know. I can't have peanuts. I was quite sad about that. I was like, damn. I was like, that's everywhere. And I was like, at least I could have the Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I got to say, that was a top contender as well. Yeah. Oh, every now and then a little treat. You know what I mean? You get some Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Oh.
I ate a lot of those.
Yeah.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yeah.
They just had the cereal become anthropomorphic and then eat the cereal. It was cereal that was, what do they call it?
Like cannibals, little cannibal cereals. Yeah. Insane. I wonder if there was ever an incident where like Timmy, this like little kid Timmy, maybe he started biting other kids in the classroom, and they were like, what's going on? He saw the cinnamon guy do it, the Cinnamon Man. It's like, what are you talking about, Timmy? I saw the Cinnamon Man on TV. He eats his friends, and he likes it, and they like it. Oh. Oh no.
I'm sure. I'm sure it's happened. Tony the Tiger, like those are like lazy. That's like probably one of the first they came out with that was just lazy. It's like, okay, we got this corn shit. We got corn flakes. Let's just douse it in sugar. It's
Yeah.
like real simple.
And I gotta admit, I mean, it's in moderation. Like,
They all are great.
it's fine in moderation. If you like, you know what I mean. If you have it every now and then and treat it like more of a dessert food, it's crazy though for somebody, a part of a cereal company, like already they capture the breakfast, right? And now advocating to just eat sugary cereals all day. That you're gonna kill people. Like people are gonna die. They won't get enough nutrients. It's like that guy who ate McDonald's every single day for
Yeah.
all meals. And then his doctor literally told him, like, you have to stop. You're like killing yourself. Like you're slowly dying. You do this for another like few years, that's it. You're dead.
But that guy also was an alcoholic during that.
Oh, that's right. He was so miserable, right? That yeah.
Well, I don't think he disclosed. You're talking about the Super Size Me guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he for years had been an alcoholic and didn't disclose that as part of the research, and he ended up getting like some sort of liver problem from eating the McDonald's. Not saying that McDonald's is not horrible. I just think you got to do legit journalism, and that didn't happen. We didn't talk about
Okay.
this. He also did he did Super Size Me 1, right?
Yeah.
I think he did Super Size Me 2.
Oh, is that
And
the
then
chickens one? Like where he
I don't
like went into the chicken industry?
Super Size Me 2. Holy chicken. Yeah.
Mm.
So there's chicken, but you'll never guess where he went next. I'll give
Is
you
there a
5
third?
I'll give you 5 guesses.
Okay. He did like McDonald's. He did then just chicken. He focused on like chicken entirely in the second one. I'm going to say the third one. There's a few different things that I could think of. Maybe he's going into beef. Maybe beef is the next lens focus. Or maybe he's going into factory farming, agriculture.
Has nothing to do with food.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's still along the lines of like some kind of social message. I feel like it's got to be along those lines. Maybe maybe like lobbying or something. Like I'm trying to think of other problems that he could like tackle outside of the food industry.
Yeah. Maybe like foreign leaders.
Oh, is he doing like international journalism? Is he like going to other Wait, and this is like actually like did he call it Super Size Me 3?
No.
Okay, okay. As I was gonna say, that would be a little bit that'd be a little bit weird.
He did a show called Where in the World is Osama bin Laden? So he tried to go find when bin Laden was still alive. He went around trying to find him.
That's crazy. That's insane behavior. That is so nuts. That's like batshit crazy. Like imagine like he tried to track down Osama bin Laden by himself. Who does that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did he
Crazy,
just
man.
take it on as like his own moral imperative? Like, was he just like, no, I'm gonna like, what was he gonna do when he found him? Is he just gonna call the State Department? Hey guys, I found Osama bin Laden. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know what the movie's about, but the movie poster is him on a camel with a lasso, and the camel's running, The lasso is around the title of the movie. Where in the world is Osama bin Laden? And then it's all wrapped up with the rope.
Huh. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So he's basically saying he's gonna like cowboy style. He's going in with like the like yeah, like going in
He's
and
gonna- Maybe he
Right.
gave information to SEAL Team 6 and Obama back then.
I don't know. That's crazy. That's insane. That's such an insane like even the depiction of like the rope and like where is he with like a some kind of going in on a saddle with a horse or something. I'm just imagining now the most cartoonish depiction. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is insane. Where in the world is Osama bin Laden?
No wonder like people around the world think we're kind of crazy. Like they see that like they're like people going on their own like moral crusade. Just a guy with like a rope running around different countries trying to find whoever is classified as a terrorist. They have like a long list.
Yeah, they've privatized the investigation of Osama bin Laden. Speaking of, did you know about these underground cities that existed
Like
in
Are you
Turkey?
in Turkey. Like how
Yeah, we
long
talked about
ago?
chicken. It's heavily debated, but thousands of years ago.
Okay. I don't think so. I mean, I know there's cities that like went underground. Like some like had like lower like levels and stuff, but I don't know the extent of like an underground city. I'm assuming like it's something like pretty impressive. Like I probably haven't heard of something that crazy.
So it's anywhere from 2,000 years old to like 11,000 years old. They don't really know, but it's like an intricate cave system. It's like an ant colony, but for the size of humans. So there was like this special rock that was made from like these volcanoes erupted and all the ash landed and then was compressed. So it was kind of easy to dig into, but it was still sturdy. They dug this ant colony with dozens and dozens of different rooms and pathways and channels, and there was even a place where like they could make wine, and it was like living quarters.
Mm.
It had like these doors that like rolled because it was old design. This particular one I'm thinking of could house up to 20,000 people inside of it.
Damn.
It
That's
was
pretty
like
crazy.
it was like a big production, that's not a lot of people. And they even had like dug out air ducts into the rock. They dug out air ducts and channels and ways like to vent and get new oxygen underground.
Imagine like living back then and you get dementia or something. Just that would be the worst place to live. I mean, I guess you'd
Why?
be confined but no, because you
Why
get
would it?
lost. You'd forget like all
Oh,
the different turns. Like I'm sure like people had like a mental map so they could easily navigate and get around. Imagine being the guy who like slowly gets older and then is like, oh man, he wanders down the wrong passage all the time. At least you're in a confined space, so someone probably will find you and they'll
yeah,
probably know.
you can get lost.
Yeah, you'll run into a person probably who's like, that's old grandpa, whatever a Turkish name would be. Get him back to his bed because he's kind of losing it.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be the best place. I guess you can't wander very far. Like, I guess if you have dementia in another city, you could just walk outside of the city limits, keep walking. there goes Grandpa Tim or whoever, I don't know, whoever it is, just keeps walking. I guess you're trapped in a cave.
Yeah, it's just so wild to me that like they could fit so many people underground, and just thinking about what it would take for somebody to want to engineer something so crazy like that.
That's a good question.
What conditions would require that?
I wonder if it was like, depending on how old it is, I don't know if it's like, it goes back really far. If it goes back far enough, it might be because temperatures might have been like really hostile, and maybe it was better to live in the caves than outside.
Yeah, that's one of the major theories um, as to why that might be. There was, um, it's hypothesized that there was a meteor event that happened about 12 to 13,000 years ago that caused a lot of like hectic stuff, like the meteors melting like that. It was at the end of the ice age basically, and like meteors hitting like the giant blocks of ice and having that create floods and things like that all over the place. And so some people think that they dug underground just in case more meteors were to hit, that they might survive.
Mm.
Because you know, like the meteor that like killed the dinosaurs and shit,
Yeah, yeah.
it creates like nuclear like explosions, and that just happened out of nowhere. I mean, it killed like all the dinosaurs. So yeah, it's just interesting to think about. We have the archaeological, anthropological belief about what the past is, and the more and more information we get, the more and more we have to question and realize what we actually know about the past. And it's just interesting to learn about all these places and phenomenon and ways humans interacted with the earth thousands of years ago that still exist to this day.
It's crazy to think about. Especially, I mean, imagine back then with the tools that they had, how long it would have take to make something like that. I mean, even the pyramids, it's still debated on how they were made today. But like even like just making a whole cave network,
Yeah,
chipping away at
with
it.
there's marks from just you could see that they were just using these pickaxes. So like I'm sure generations of people it took to build that. And so like to have something so powerful be prevalent for several generations and to have the perseverance for that just is mind-boggling.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
mean, just think
imagine.
about how recently like the Great Depression was, and how few people besides the Mormons are living based on that information that happened 100 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
But
It's
it caused intense labor into a hostile living in a hostile environment underground, dude. There's no sun up there. We need that.
Yeah, I think I'd go insane if I had to live underground. I think you know what probably in the end made them keep living there? Imagine somebody tells you like, "Yeah, we've built this for generations. So many people died. I can list 500 people who died working on this project. And it took us so half of them, didn't even get to see it get finished in its entirety. They were still living outside, and yeah, like a lot of blood went into this. And then you're basically just guilted into living there forever. You have to.
Yeah, I mean there weren't really any settlements nearby, which is kind of an interesting part of it.
Yeah. There'd be like every year there'd be that one guy who guilts everybody to stay. Right? Like there'd be a certain point where people are like, I didn't help build this. And there's one person who's heard the stories and was like, no. 500. It's changed at this point. It's 5,000 people died working on these caves, and it took 50,000 generations. And God also helped. And if you leave, he'll kill you. And
Yeah.
so then you have to stay. You can't leave.
Yeah, definitely God was involved. But I will say that so this is like there's this one network of caves, and then they found these pathways that were several miles of just a straight line connecting from this to other underground settlements throughout Turkey. And when they got to the end of their exploration, they've now uncovered up to 200 different underground settlements within this region of Turkey.
That's crazy.
Now 200 is that many in total, but there are 50 to 60 of them that are like extensive and span several layers beneath the surface. Like it's like a multi-story building, whereas the majority of them are like 2 stories or 3 stories, just underground networks of rooms and things. Just they needed to live underground back then for some reason.
That is insane.
Crazy, dude.
I wonder if there was even some like religious belief that made them think, you know, underground is the way to go.
Well, I think it has to do with this meteor attack, if I'm being honest.
It could, if they were afraid of more meteors coming, especially if they like had it recorded, written down through like previous people, and they were just thinking at a certain point it might come down and strike again. They might have just like that. Imagine, based off of that one event, they're like, "No, we are never going up there." Can you imagine? Someone's like, "We're never going up there again." That's fucked up. I remember the stories, like terrible stories. Sounds awful. We'll just live underground forever, and we'll just keep. Can you imagine if that kept going? If like till this day, society just moved underground from that period onwards, and they just like the story was this. You're like, why are we living like? What's up there? What's up above? And they're like, there's like flying fiery balls that fall from the sky above the ground. We don't go up there ever.
Yeah.
Never. Yeah.
I mean, that would suck if they didn't start, but I believe like some people would have to go out, you know, and find food, and then some of them would discover, hey, we can chill out here and we're fine, right?
Yeah, unless maybe there was like a strict like there was like some overseer.
But there's too many, dude. There's too many
there would
people
probably
on
be too
Earth.
many people. But then what if he has like guards like on every, like he has them just like placed, and he's like, if you let anybody through.
Dude, people always break out. They always break out. They always break the rules. They always go where they're not supposed to.
You know what they do? They do that strategy.
The story of Adam and Eve.
The guy, I'm thinking of Alcatraz. You know that guy who he put a poster up and he'd chip away at the wall until he got through. He used basically
They did that at Alcatraz? Because that's from The Shawshank Redemption. Is from the movie?
It's based on a real story, because there's a guy who actually did that, who actually like slowly chipped away. I think it's based on a real story. And I can't remember. I think he used a poster.
I mean, good for him. That's a good strategy. People swim to Alcatraz from San Francisco all the time. It's not that hard. Did you know that?
Well, I didn't know they do. I know that the people who escaped tried to. They left in a raft, but they didn't even survive. At least they think they perished. They might have survived.
I thought it was like this island where you could not escape. People, it's like a triathlon. People just swim there all the time. Like, it's not that big of a feat.
See, you'd probably have to train, though, because I would imagine...
Swimming, and you probably couldn't swim on the island.
Yeah, because you'd be stuck in this prison.
Exercise.
Yeah, you can beef up a little bit. Maybe do some, like, holding your breath, like, challenges
cardio
every day. But then when you get in the water and you haven't swam in like 6 years, you
Yeah,
gotta be
but like
careful.
I think it's equally as hard to like run a marathon as it is to swim from Alcatraz to San Francisco. Like it's hard, but it's not like people do it.
Yeah, I think there'd be a risk though. Like you're sitting in jail for so long. I think there'd be like you'd be rolling the dice a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm sure there was the threat of that, but sometimes you just got to get in the water and do it.
Yeah. It made me recently a friend of mine has been making me watch Andor. It's like a Star Wars production. And it's actually pretty good. I think a lot of like the Star Wars has been like really dicey, kind of a lot of trash in there. But this somehow ended up turning out really good. But there was this one scene, it was this prison breakout, and it's like an Alcatraz of sorts, and all of them go running into the water. And there's one guy who's like, I can't swim, and they have to. I guess he just gets left behind, but everyone's jumping into this water, and there's another shot of like how far it is, and I'm like, no, like half of them are dead. Like
Yeah.
like only the people who have like some triathlon experience, and the length of it, I was like, no, there's Michael Phelps, and then like the main character will survive because he has the main character never dies. You can't kill the main character. They swim out. There's only two guys that make it. I was like, yep, my theory is correct, 100%.
Michael Phelps was in that?
Well, I imagine the other guy had to be a Michael Phelps type guy, because that's the only way. You'd have Michael Phelps, everyone else would drown, and the main character, you just can't kill the main character. And that's exactly what happened. There was the main character and one guy that lived. And I was like, yep, that's at least the writers knew that they couldn't have all of them make it. Like, I'd be like, no way. Like, I would drown if I probably tried to do that. I'd be like, I'm so excited, and then I'd be in the middle, and that's when you start panicking. Like I've been there before. You're
Right.
swimming,
Right.
you're like, oh no, I just gotta float. I can just do the belly float. No, you're panicked. Your brain is already like hyperventilating because you're stuck out there. Yeah, and then imagine there's people looking for you. There's people. No, we have to keep going. They're gonna shoot us down from the sky. You're not going to lie there and float. You're going to just be like, I just got to keep going until I just sink. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty intense. But there's a show called Ancient Apocalypse that I've been watching. That's where I'm getting this information from. It's on Netflix. Definitely worth watching. And you could just pick an episode that seems interesting to you. You don't have to watch it in order. But they discovered this place because there's all this stuff about how do they do the pyramids and yada yada yada. The pyramids were like 5,000 years ago or something. They call them these megalithic sites, but just like giant stones, basically. Like Stonehenge is one, pyramids. They found this one from 12,000 years ago called Göbekli Tepe. Have you heard of that?
No.
It is the oldest megalithic site that we know of. And it is a series of, I think, 40 plus stone structures that are like 10,000 pounds each. Like there's these stones that are standing up inside of like these rooms that they made, and they're particularly placed based on like the alignment of these specific stars, and it's way beyond anything we thought possible for people from 12,000 years ago, because mostly we've been thinking about those people as hunter-gatherers, right? You fight for the food, you find a shelter for a few nights, and you keep going, right? Yada, yada, yada. They built these things like, the car, the Suburban, like the SUV?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like one of the biggest cars you can get. These stones were basically if you put two Suburbans end to end and then you stood them up like this, and they were perfectly aligned to like all these astronomical like specific stars. They could denote like the different solstices and stuff. So these people who made this, and it's been carbon dated to 12,000 years ago, they knew about astronomy, and we didn't think that the hunters and gatherers knew about that. But also they had the technology to carve the stones and to erect these stone structures that are tens of thousands of pounds. And then the weirdest part is it like they discovered it wherever it's located. I think it's in the Middle East somewhere. It was intentionally covered. So it was all underground, just in a giant mound of dirt. Somebody found, they started excavating and they found like these stone pillars, and all the dirt was carbon dated to the same time period. So it wasn't like over time like dirt had filled in and created the mound. All the dirt came in at the same time. So it was like intentionally buried for some reason. And then now they've excavated about 5% in total of all these pillars. And they have like the pillars are engraved with different events, and like people have been theorizing about what the symbols mean. But they have this technology called LiDAR, and they can shoot it at the dirt and see what's underneath the earth. So they know that there's like tons and tons of these pillars and these carvings from 12,000 years ago, but it's underneath dirt. And they've only excavated about 5% in total of all that megalithic site.
Damn. That's pretty crazy. Imagine if you made something, like built something, and then either like, I'm thinking of different scenarios here. One is like there was some religious like thing like that made them bury them, right? Like maybe like there was like a mass starvation event and they were like, the gods are unhappy, bury it. Imagine in that scenario being the guy who like, cause like you're one of the workers, you slaved away, kind of like it with the pyramids, right? Like, you worked on this your whole life. You put the engravings in there. And then like the chief one day, or whoever is in charge of like this like society, goes and says, all right, time to bury it. What? No, it's time to bury it. It's bad. I'm getting bad feelings about this. The gods are displeased with what you made. Bury it. And then you have to go out there and I mean, I'm sure it happened over a long period of time, right? Like that guy might have died who made it. But if there was any crossover, like you were one of the last people, right? Like your family, your whole family has been Mason people for your whole life. That's your trade. And your family, like my grandfather was crushed by one of the rocks when we were during one of the sites, and I've always done it my whole life. And you finish up one of the last ones, and you're like, wow, that's amazing. And then right after, the chief is like, bury all of them. 1,000 years of work, bury it.
Yeah.
Suck.
That would suck. To me, the site is almost like a library or like a time capsule. So like a time capsule is meant to be put underground and found later, and made sure that the later person or people like discovering that like get some sort of view of the past and derive some meaning from it. So this guy in the documentary series thinks that there's a possibility that it was intentionally covered so it could be discovered at a later date, as intentionally as protected as an artifact, because it depicts important historical events within the engravings and the alignment of the stones. And a crazy part of it is 5%'s been uncovered, but now big money has got involved from overseas, and the tourism at this place has gone from like 10 or 20,000 people a year to now 500,000 people a year visiting this Göbekli Tepe. And now the guys who run that shit, they're like, sick, we're not going to excavate anymore.
Oh, so, they'd have to close it down if they did, probably, right?
No,
they want the money to keep coming in.
There's no reason to explore more. Like they like that it's the mystery. Like that's part of the allure of going is like, oh, this shit's still, we still don't know all about this.
What about
Cause
just to
like there's
see the stuff that's been built like thousands of years ago? Like I remember going and seeing Petra, and we know a lot about that area and how like things were constructed, but it's still interesting. I go to hear about it just to hear about like how old it is, how it used to be like a trading center, and like all this cool stuff. That's why I go there. It's amazing to see something that like was built so long ago, like during the day before the Romans. You know what I mean? It's amazing to see something like that. Even going like I traveled to Italy before, even just seeing the Colosseum. It's amazing to see something that was built long ago with the technology that they had. How would these guys, why would they think that the mystery is going to help increase tourism? Like for me, I'm not like I would go still, to learn, to see what's the history.
yeah, there's like the allure and the attraction side, and then there's just like pure like we're not investing more money in this because it's already a cash cow. Um,
Mm, maybe they
the
project that they wouldn't see much of a gain in tourism.
yeah, they're just not going to get a return on their investment. Some of the more conspiracy guys, they think that the big money guys are tied to world leaders, and that they're afraid that they're going to discover um like perspective shattering information from like what's on these engravings. And they also think the same thing about they discovered a new chamber in the Pyramid of Giza,
I've heard
which
about
is
that.
which is kind of crazy that they didn't know about it before. Um, it's actually really crazy because I thought they had like scanned it and everything, but there's the chamber, right? And they're not gonna look in there. They decided like, hey, we're not gonna look in the new chamber we found in the Pyramid of Giza.
I mean, I will say this. I think there's always a logical, usually a semi-logical explanation behind everything. Who knows though?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I should go check on my laundry too.
Uh huh.
See if I got a text. Okay, dryer's free. I will be right back. Actually,
Uh
I'm
huh.
gonna go put on my shoes here, and then I can talk for a little bit more, and then I'll head out the door.
Uh huh. Uh huh. So yeah, there's this thing, Ancient Apocalypse. You should go see it. It's definitely worth watching the show. There's 2 seasons of it. Um, it's done through a lens of like realism, but then there's like the mythical aspect that played a role in the spiritualism of ancient cultures that does kind of make it seem like it's fantasy. And it is. I mean, clearly, like, there's definitely gonna be missing information. But when it comes down to it, it is it is about creating a perspective on the past that's gonna allow us to investigate the past in the best and most effective way. Because we got to learn about the history of what's happening on this planet, so we can know about what exists. History is important for so many reasons in informing what we decide to do in the future, and also to a certain degree doesn't matter at all because we can use our own creativity however we want at present day, and we're never going to have all the information at our grasp. But I just find it to be interesting and kind of pulls me into a frame of thinking that I kind of like, just recognizing like, okay, here's recorded history, here's what we think, here's this new information. People are now discussing this new information. This is interesting. We don't actually know as much as we thought, and there might be even more important, valuable things to discover outside of the modern discovery mechanism of this modern science. Like, it might be important to discover things through just looking, observing, and formulating theories, as there is in discovery using the scientific method or through mathematics or artificial intelligence. Just there might have been inventors from long ago. There might have been inventors from 50,000 years ago that have more or less the same anatomy that we have. And that's important. And look at Jesse, he's so funny coming back. But that's important to think about, that when did we really get when did we get our modern human brains in evolution? So they do this thing now in Google where it's AI answers before anything else. And people just got to protect your neck, you know? Look at the other answers too.
Sometimes they give you wrong answers, AI. They'll just lie to
Oh yeah.
you. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh, for sure. But what I was postulating was that perhaps there was advanced civilizations prior to our advanced civilization, or the one that happened in Egypt. Side note, Egypt used to be uh I don't know if it was a temperate rainforest. It used to be all green shit everywhere, and there was elephants, and it was like a lush kind of jungle, likely at the time of when the pyramids were there. But what I was getting at was, we have the modern methods of discovery and inquiry and the scientific method, and we have mathematics and artificial intelligence as a way to like learn new things and like develop strategies and glean valuable insight from, right, as a discovery mechanism. And if there's a possibility that humans of the past developed technology through a system of interacting with life that was vastly different than ours, and we were able to discover that, we can also glean valuable insight and just give credit to the people of history and not be so arrogant, because it's so interesting. I just looked this up, and um it's about 100,000 years ago was the earliest they started to find like skeletons that kind of look like ours, and now they're different, right, because of the way we interact with technology. But those skeletons would have likely have had the same size of brain. And if those people at that time had a civilization and they had technology and they had values and understanding about existence and the interrelation between human existence and the world, if they knew about that and they developed mechanisms for creating peace and harmony in the world, it would be great if we could uncover those. And the first step to possibly uncovering those is recognizing that there might have been civilizations of people who had the same level of sophistication physically in the human form prior to the most recent ice age, right? Most of which the ice age and the ensuing events would have wiped out virtually all remnants of these civilizations. So there's not, we don't actually know what happened before these ice ages. And if you at least start with the premise, even if it's not true, if you start with the premise, there there was a potential that there was elite level civilizations equal to or greater than what we have right now, then we might be able to have a lens where we can make discoveries from looking backwards as opposed to only looking forwards.
Yeah, I I don't know. Definitely this is outside of my like. I haven't seen any of like these any of these episodes or anything. But here's something though. What if like on the discussion factor of them having possibly something that can contribute to peace and harmony? What if the reason why they went away though was because what like they're not there anymore. So like if anything I'd be skeptical of, them having that. What if it was a terrible society? Could be bad.
Oh, so you're saying what if it was a bad society?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like they're not
that's
around anymore.
possible.
I'm thinking that like they fucked up or something. Like they.
You mean like
I don't
in
know how
some
far
like
this is going back. I don't know if the implication that like this show is trying to say that like they were around before the dinosaurs. I don't know what the implication is that somehow they went extinct.
no
But if
dinosaurs is
so,
like millions of years. I'm talking like tens of thousands of years ago.
okay,
When
you're
humans DNA is the modern evolution form of humans when
because
that
I
was
was gonna
created
say
around 100,000 years ago.
that would be kind of insane. Like because like the dinosaurs were definitely before the humans. But you mean 10,000 like years ago?
No,
Still though.
tens of thousands. Yeah. So basically, 12,000 years ago, there was an ice age, and human humans almost went extinct. And the prevailing theory that's being chipped away at is humans were hunter gatherers prior to that ice age. Some of those hunter gatherers luckily survived, and then over time, they learned agriculture, and then they learned civilization, um, and then that's how we started to develop our intellect. There's a possibility that there were civilizations in different places around the globe prior to the ice age, and when the ice age ended, the sea levels rose, and so a lot of where these civilizations would be in the nice regions of the globe are now all underwater, and they could have been bad guys. I'm sure there was people stealing shit and yada yada yada, right? But just imagine there are virtually infinite number of ways that we can have a society, right? Like right now we have like this constitution and we have states and yeah, all this, right? But there's infinite ways of like drawing it up. And they probably developed their ability to interact with the forces of nature, right? In a specific way. We utilize fossil fuels and mechanical energy and things like that. But there's a lot of things we haven't discovered. Like there was just this guy who he just loved doing acid and sitting by himself and dreaming up experiments. And he gave us a lot of insights into science and the way that the universe works and how to capture that and create mechanisms for change in the world. Albert Einstein, right? There's probably ways these ancient people viewed the world and had an understanding of certain physics, just the way that physics works, and leveraging that in a certain way to create a certain outcome. That would be great to know. And that could give us insight into how we could create we could create what we want in life.
Yeah, I mean, well, I would say too. There's even like we might, for instance, we might not learn anything though about even like the Roman period or like we uncover different like old archaeological ruins, and every now and then there's something cool like It might even just be how they made their concrete. The Romans, they made extremely resilient concrete. It's lasted for, for forever. It might not even like, even the pursuit of knowledge doesn't have to be too like, finding something crazy, like innovative or something that like is completely brand new. Sometimes it's even just interesting to learn more about history, for the sake of, searching and documenting and learning, that too.
Yeah, I think that's boring. That stuff.
I think it's cool. I mean, like, it's just like I don't know. Sometimes that's what you end up getting, but it's like, it's still okay. Like if that's
Yeah,
if
I
that's
just
all
think it's
you end
boring.
up finding, then it's like, that you still got to take what you can take,
Yeah. I just think it's boring. That there's nothing wrong with it. I just think that's not me, dog. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to be an archaeologist with one of those brushes, and getting all the dirt off and writing in my record books. No.
You got to have
No.
somebody who does it. I wouldn't want to do the work
Yeah.
either. It sounds tedious and annoying. Like I
Yeah.
like hearing about it, but I mean, I'm not going to be on the ground doing the crazy, or even like doing like calculations trying to pinpoint where something is on like a map. I'm not about it. So, it's good we have people who do it, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, yeah. I just think there's validity to a possibility that civilization exists prior to this ice age. And I don't care how much of it is true. It the way it informs the way I act in the world has an effect that I like. So I'm going to use that as a possibility.
You never know. I haven't seen any of I haven't actually seen any of the show, so I'm mostly in the dark, except what you've told me so far. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. It's
it's
just
an
fun. It's
interesting
just
idea.
fun.
Yeah, especially I mean, like the cave thing, like even just like when they find new like stuff, I'm always interested. You never know what they're gonna find next. Same with like history and like science, and they're always finding new things. Some of it's not as exciting as others. There's always going to be, more boring stuff. Like for instance, like this is probably kind of boring, like there was to remove CO2 from the atmosphere, they've designed a way to shoot like salts into the atmosphere to try and slowly remove it. This is something I learned about a long time ago, but they're still working on it. It's taking them a long time. I don't know how far. I think this might have been like 5 years ago when I heard about this. So who knows? Maybe they've done more with it now, but yeah, I mean, again, but it's kind of boring, right? Like it's kind of dumb because it's like, oh, it's just salt. It's a salt machine for the atmosphere, basically. I know I thought it was boring too, but it's interesting because of what it does. You give some, you
Yeah,
take some.
I don't think that's boring. I think being an archaeologist or a historian is boring. If you don't get to use your creativity to create an ecosystem where other people can like engage and flourish. Cuz like there's just the archaeological facts, right? Then there's the individual's interpretation. And when it comes down to it, the interpretation of the mainstream archaeologist gets solidified through conversations amongst them. Those conversations solidify beliefs about the past, and then when new information gets introduced, it's really hard for that mechanism to adjust to new information. But people who know all the facts and who can create a world of possibility while still recognizing the unknown, then you can invite people into studying the past and to questioning what happened instead of saying what happened. Then you can be an incredible agent of change. And I think that's what this guy, Graham Hancock, did with this series, Ancient Apocalypse.
It's interesting. I mean, like, I think that does exist though in every academic field to a certain extent. I mean, think about back in the day when I can't remember who's the guy who made the theory that the world was round. Can't remember the name of the guy, but he was like persecuted for it.
Oh, was it Galileo?
Galileo, yeah, was first basically persecuted by like the church and a bunch of like high officials back then.
Yeah, I think he died
Um,
in prison.
yeah, like it's one of those things where I think there's always this, there's always rigidity in science at first. And these like little arguments, it doesn't even just go back to like big events like that. It's little bitty ones all along the way where you'll have someone produces a theory, it has a process of getting a ton of pushback, and then eventually truth is revealed, science evolves, and it keeps going. I think that's the whole like academic even structure. Even when it goes to history all the way to science, there's always going to be a ton of pushback at first, but when it passes that clearing check, eventually then things keep moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the stress
Absolutely.
test, because there's a ton of like theories that are out there that aren't correct too. So,
Definitely.
all of them have to come through that immediate headwind, and the truth, I think, prevails eventually.
Yes. And I would say people who are the checkers might benefit by having the attitude that they're aiding in the discovery of solid facts that may be overturned later, and using that mind frame as opposed to something that is, this is the way it is and I'm fighting to save this view, and recognize that it is an ever expanding understanding. And instead of being right and fighting for what's right, they're going to do their role of the one who heavily disputes the new, while recognizing we don't fully understand at the same time.
I mean, that's supposed to be like a primary principle in academics. Like,
Yeah, it's
even
supposed to
in,
be.
yeah, even in like, in a, even in basic science classes, I mean, that's the whole point of like a hypothesis and proving the hypothesis and running tests multiple different times. They do that because they want to make sure that they have it right. And they do it multiple times because they don't just want to believe it at face value. I mean, it's supposed to be what happens is that someone proposes something, then another person tests it, then another person tests it, and everyone's just basically questioning it to a point where the real answer solidifies in some way. Even in like political science, any sort of like field, where someone produces a thesis on something too. The whole entire academic world is supposed to poke it, see if there's any like problems with it, if there's any like weakness to it, and then eventually fill in the gaps and create something stronger. Um, I think that's like, at least I'm sure there's some people who take the poking a little bit too far and end up, trying to defend. I know in political science and economics that exists all the time. There's people who have theories that have been criticized by, a massive portion of the field in itself. There's a ton of economists who come out and say there's problems, but a lot of people stick with the mainstream theories, I guess, and they continue to push out, I guess, new what they call advancements based on those theories because they think it's the only way to go. when there's been tons of different debates within the field itself. So I think it depends, because I think a lot of people might think it's the field, the academic field itself, that is like the problem. But I think oftentimes it's people within the field that don't want to change their view despite new evidence being brought up. And then the vice versa can be true. You have some people who come up with new ideas and they don't work despite how many times they're tested. I think it's a little bit chaotic in a way, but it can be it can be good. It can be bad and good at the same time due to said chaos.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that it is often the actors, not the institution itself. I think, yeah, I think like the world can benefit from having that attitude. We don't know. We're trying to figure it out. Parts of our understanding right now are limiting a better understanding, and using that as a central tenet for discovery and for creating a posture towards life. Using that mechanism would be really beneficial, and something that should be taught in schools. Um, I believe to a certain degree, just through the way we went to school, Montessori school. I think that catered at least a self-reliance and a self-propelling engagement with life and understanding and learning that allows for recognizing this inherently, but having it explicitly taught also, I believe, is really important. Um, that it is the way that it works is there's this whole saying that like the map is not the territory. You heard that term before?
I, I don't know if I've heard it before. It sounds familiar, but isn't it basically that like a map can't show everything? You know, so you look at a map and it's just of like one continent, and then you're missing, all the other locations that exist around the world.
Yeah, it doesn't show all the other locations, but also the map doesn't actually show you like what's going on there at that time. And let's say it's a satellite map, it's not going to show the roads per se and give all the road names. And like just looking at the map isn't going to tell you what's going on in that part of the globe, wherever it is. Right? It's a representation through symbols to allow you to navigate. But it's not actually like showing you live what's occurring there. And you can't get a sense of what's happening there just by looking at the map. But what we have in our brain is a model of the world that we can liken to the map. Right? So we have our understanding of the world, and we filter all of our experiences through that understanding. Does that make sense? Making your belief system and analogizing that to the map and the territory.
Yeah. I would say it's difficult because the map is also necessary at the same time,
Exactly. Yeah.
because you need it to be able to even just recognize what you're looking at. But the fact is that it doesn't tell you everything. It definitely won't. You can't know what's going on the ground. It's definitely like a static picture too, which is, I mean, that's the same thing with all the information that we've ever collected. It's all static, and it all just informs us a little bit more about the world that we live in, and it's an ever expanding picture of knowledge. And that's generally, I mean, like what, at least that's what I've been taught in academics, is that's like, that's the view of the scholar, is that they're continuously searching and proposing new ideas and trying to find new things. Everyone, of course, has different ideas as to what that looks like and what that is. Some have even like critiqued certain fields. Like this is more so. I only know about political science and economics mainly, but economics has been criticized for calling itself a science in the way that it currently acts, because it's run off of cost benefit analyses, it's run off of math. So the perception is that it's a science and it operates like a science. But the problem often is the benefits that you plug into these equations are kind of subjective. So people will come up with values and they'll come up with costs. And sometimes all the costs aren't reflected, sometimes all the benefits aren't reflected. And you end up with somebody who's basically just giving you their own, I guess, their own moral perspective on what looks the best.
So you're saying economics is fake?
To a certain degree, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not always wrong. Someone can there's always a like representation of a success, I guess, in every field, right? Of like something that worked out well, and then of course a whole number of things that didn't work out well, especially in economics. Oh my God, it's littered with so many problems. You take like environmental economics, the first thing that becomes apparent is how much the field has screwed up over the past few decades alone. But I think like it depends. Like you can use a cost benefit analysis, but if you don't recognize that the cost benefit analysis can be wrong, then you're kind of just at a fault because you're just accepting every single proposed analysis to be based off of truth. There's a lot of
Yeah.
costs that the past analyses didn't factor in, including environmental damage, happened in factory farming, and for sometimes reasons, they didn't know. That's like one side of the equation. They thought that they knew all the costs. Another side of it is that they did know the costs. The tobacco company back in the day knew about the harms of smoking. Same with the gas company, Chevron, knew that they were harming the environment. They had this information available to them. So they knew the costs, and the idea in economics is that, the company knows the damages that they're inflicting upon society. So they must stop it because they know that the costs are higher now. Even in dollar value, you calculate all the net damages. It's going to cost a ton to recuperate from this. Medical bills. You can calculate all these things in like economic costs theoretically, but it didn't work. They kept doing it. And it kind of just shows that even with all information available to every single actor involved, it's not necessarily that, that actor is going to stop doing what they're doing. And, that I'm sure you copy paste that same thing and paste it into a whole number of different, academic fields. That also another criticism of economics, they don't communicate with other fields very often. That's another one that a ton of economists have said over and over again, is that academics within the economics field insulate themselves from like political science, even like biology, sociology. There's so many different fields, environmental, like ecology.
Clear demonstration of the map is not the territory, and that we're using a model of understanding that has the capacity for enhancements, although it might not be using those enhancements to their advantage at the time. Because when we really think about it, we have a view of the world, and we can have a better view of the world. We can have our map, and we can go and see when we click on the map, it says, hey, you need to update the app. We enhanced the map. And you're like, sick. I thought the map was great, but it can get better. It can get clearer. It can be a better representation of the territory. This is awesome. And what you said about academics is having that as their pursuit and understanding that the map will always be getting updated. That's phenomenal. And I think there can even be further emphasis put on learning how to create circumstances where there are more updates for the map, and having that be a pursuit in and of itself. in direct opposition to a strategy that would be, let me find the map that I'm going to use for the rest of my life. You know? So, because there's all sorts of people out there. I'm sure you see them online. Maybe you get into disagreements with them. Basically, the way that I view conflict in the world is people are looking at their map. They can only see the world through their map, right? And they go, my map says this. And then somebody is over there. My map says this. And then it's just you have a conflict because your maps say different things.
Well, I think the thing with that though is there are some people who believe like if we accepted everything that everybody says at face value, we'd be living in a pretty wacky place. Or like even an immoral place at some points, you know what I mean? Some people believe some things that I mean are pretty dangerous. You know, there's such thing as like disinformation to a point where it's dangerous. And that's where I think it becomes difficult to have a conversation at certain levels of disinformation. Because at a certain point, there's no like coming to like an agreement and giving somebody like, it's almost like giving someone like a treat for something that is so outlandish and so like dangerous and so like evidently possible to, you know, even just like setting back society, right? Like if you just gave somebody everything that they want, like for instance, like someone who believes in like, you know, that the earth is flat and that we shouldn't explore space anymore. It's pointless. No, useless. We shouldn't do that anymore. Giving somebody a mile there can be pretty harmful. Not that these people hold positions, a meaningful position anyways. They can't, you know, set it back. Perhaps if they get elected, they could. Perhaps if somehow they found their way into, you know, scientific funding and started cutting back all this research, then we might experience some harm. But I think there's certain things where you can't compromise on it, I guess.
You must got me wrong on this because I'm not saying you just listen to what everyone's map says. I'm just saying in conflict, if you are immortalizing the map that you have in the conflict and throughout the entire conflict, you're not checking if there's any updates to your own map, then you've got a real problem.
Yeah.
Because that's the truth of it, is that it's like a limited perspective that is always growing and having room for updates. And so when there is a conflict and you're just looking at your map and you think the map is reality, and it is reality in that experience, but if you don't also have a point of view at the same time, recognizing, okay, this is a map, I have this understanding, I might be getting an update soon. I'm going to keep moving forward this, and I'm also going to make sure that I have the best map that I possibly can have. And I think that perspective needs to be explicitly taught throughout somebody's education on Earth.
I agree. Yeah, I don't think I think it's like having a healthy amount of skepticism in a certain way, while not forgetting that, you know, there is some information that is pretty concrete. No one can say 100% what's going to be discovered in the future. I would say though, when there is like a conversation being had, understanding like, you know, that there is like, for instance, there are maps with a lot of like important information on them already. A lot of them are pretty concrete in that they haven't been changed in forever. They might, you never know, but there's likelihood of like, there's looser information on this map and there's less loose information on this map. It's kind of like a varying scale of different information. I think there's like, I guess when talking about certain issues, I think it becomes dangerous when everyone's map is just completely different. Because I think there's a certain set of information that, especially nowadays in the age of like misinformation, there's some stuff that people just like they don't know anymore. Or there's things where like there's conversations that can't even be had or crossed, like people who deny the Holocaust, people who deny major events. All of a sudden there becomes this world where you can't even communicate on the basis of reality or on the basis of like morals or ethics. I mean, that probably dives more into philosophy, but even like discussing these important topics, if there's nothing that's rooted in the ground, then we all are just floating out there and there's no basis for us to all communicate with. And also it's dangerous because, you know, history repeats itself if it's forgotten. And
Yeah. Also, it's the map is not the territory at the end of the day. And it's not important for everyone to have the same view of the world. It's just important that you have a view of the world that includes the fact that your view of the world is and will always be changing and evolving.
yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah,
I
you don't need
like,
to you don't need to talk to everybody. There's crazy people. Like, we don't need everyone to have a itemized, specific based reality that we all share. You just need to question what your perception is at all times, because it's just a still frame. It's static, like you were saying.
yeah, I just, the only problem is that I think like if there's too many people who like, for instance, don't have an accurate map anymore, like for instance, again, someone like who doesn't believe in the Holocaust, thinks the world is flat, list a ton of things that are just like, you know, rooted in reality. These people do not believe it anymore, right? At a certain point that becomes super dangerous. So there has to be some kind of like, I think the schools have just been failing on that aspect, especially in the US. I don't know how we've come to such an age. I mean, sure, the internet plays a part, the you know, mass media and how it's evolved, how big media companies, you know, try and get clicks by just throwing whatever titles and misinformation they want to out there. It's a multifaceted issue, but I think that becomes also a real problem. There has to be like, you know, people have to understand that there are some things that are rooted in reality on this map, but at the same time understand that we're always learning new things and that there's always room for an open discussion as long as
But it's
somebody isn't just adamantly denying things.
but it's just but it's just a map, dude. It's just like there there isn't specifically a reality that we're interfacing with. We have our perception of the reality is what we're interfacing with. And so there might be some very, very strange series of events that have occurred where a certain aspect of these maps that you're saying are just totally fucked up and rudimentary, there might be an aspect of the way they see the world that has valid truth in it. What if there was just through a black hole, there was a version of Earth that was flat,
See,
and we never would have discovered it without somebody believing that, right? Because Galileo didn't know that there was gravity and there was the orbits and shit. He thought that the planets had like there was a physical mechanism holding them up in the sky, you know, like there's it takes it takes levels, like we're saying. It takes iterations to get closer and closer.
but that person is so like delusion to a point where they believe that the earth is just flat. There's no like even like theory that he's basing it on. It's very much like a, this is the world that I'm living in because it must be true. I read somewhere that this is true. It must be true. And all of a sudden there's this detachment from reality. And when that
Yeah.
starts spreading, that idea, all of a sudden we're moving back 50 years. All of a sudden this group is like, we were forgetting about the Holocaust. I watched like a conspiracy theory thing online, and now we're throwing that out the window. And all of a sudden this group starts forgetting things, and all of a sudden the Holocaust happens again. All of a sudden we're not sailing ships around the world because the earth is flat and we might fall off the edge. All of a sudden we're not going to space anymore. All of a sudden we're forgetting about every single, like, new thing we've discovered. There's such thing as like regression in a bad way, I think. There's the other opposite end of saying, okay, here's what we know to be true. Here's how our society is operating. Here's how we are currently combating modern issues. And here are the things that we don't know. And here are the massive amount of improvements that we have. I mean, we have to, like, wait years and years to find out about this or that, or all these different, like, X, Y, and Z subjects. Like, there's a healthy balance, I suppose. It depends on how somebody goes about being a skeptical, I guess. You have, like, skeptics that are going in the completely wrong direction, and you have skeptics who go about it in a way that's very how would I say it? Just in a positive aspect, positive and negative, I guess. Skepticism is what I would, I guess, say.
Yeah, I think you never know until hundreds of years later who was doing these positive and negative things, because you can have people that are still integrated into the modern society and they can have progressive thoughts, let's say. But also sometimes it takes people being a little bit crazy, a little bit adventurous psychologically, and just trying something, right? I think I think it just really depends on that individual's experience of life, and it can have a profound effect on humanity. But I believe if somebody wants to believe in flat earth and that allows them to have the experience that they want on earth, then they should do that. If they get to be who they want to be with that experience, they should get to do that. And for people living in a different universe, they can create the world that they want to create. And that's the way it's been throughout all of human history. It's people are creating what they want to create, and there's people that want different things in this world.
Well, what if those things are bad though? Like what if the things that are a result of all these different things are bad, are just like objectively, will cause net harms. Like, and in the future, everyone will say, "Oh, I can't believe that we let this happen. We could have prevented it." That's where it becomes a massive problem. And we see this happening. I mean, this happens all the time. And it's a major problem in academics. I mean, even making the connection back to economics, there are people who think that what they're doing is okay until all of a sudden they realize it's not okay. And there's always this, like, analysis of, like, this person's wrong. Don't let them get away with it. Don't let them continue doing what they're doing. It's the same thing if, like, someone that's, say, appointed a flat earther to be in charge of, like, scientific studies somewhere, and the massive ramifications. All of a sudden, you don't see it quite yet, but we're living in a dystopian, terrible reality in the future because all these people keep getting shifted into positions where they just shouldn't be in. And all of a sudden you have someone denying the Holocaust who's in charge of some department, right? Hell, in charge of history. Imagine how damaging that would be. That person gets his hands on the education system, on history, on teaching kids what happened previously. Like, I think these are, like, there's so many damaging ramifications, especially somebody who doesn't believe in the Holocaust. I would find that to be extremely concerning. I would say there's a problem there. There's a problem with education. That person, that's sad that person doesn't know about history, has no roots into reality, I guess, is so far out, just floating in the universe. You probably can never even capture them back to Earth anymore. They're out. It's crazy,
Yeah. Yeah, hey man, there's people who are far gone, and in your view they might be too far gone. I just prefer having a frame on the world, a belief system where I don't have to worry about that shit because it's just about creativity. Now here is your creativity. If you care that much, then create an education system where that can't exist. Be
I wish
involved in the solution because that's what it is, man. It's just you're perceiving the world as it is. You're viewing some of it as problematic, and now you get to decide if you want to let that go, you want to keep thinking about it, or if you want to do something about it. And that's just the way that like life works. You engage with your new experience. That's just the way it is, man. I mean,
I would say there's a problem though, an extra layer I guess on top where I don't think I'd be able to solve something like that alone, you know? I don't think I'd be able to even have all the knowledge available at my disposal to, like, you know, tackle an issue like that. I can recognize that something's a problem. I can recognize what other people maybe have said about it, what other people have put research into. I still wouldn't know everything. I guess I am also a believer though that some of the issues that we face, we only can tackle together as like a large group. But then that becomes the
yeah.
problem of cohesion, because how do you get a bunch of people together to tackle a problem?
Yeah, you talk to people, man.
Even then, though, you know, it takes like institutional change. It's so hard to achieve because even, like, you know, if you talk to everyone in your community, or even if somebody that's, say, like everyone on their phone, they just hit up everybody, right? Who knows how many people you're gonna draw, but you need that effect, but like times like the millions, you know what I mean? You need I mean, protests sometimes have changed. Civil rights movement was a mass scale movement. But sometimes, you know, it's hard to get an institution, a whole entire system of governance, where you talk about global issues, becomes even harder because there's so many different institutions across the globe. It's a very, like, I don't think it's ever easy, and I don't think it ever will, because I mean, even I can't remember. I took a class on politics and social change, and historically, there's so many different movements to do things that have failed. There's some that have been successes, but it's never one person that does it, you know? And how they start, I mean, it's made me feel, I guess, ultimately very not empowered, but disempowered as an individual. And
So
I
you
think
just
there's
real
knowledge in
so you
that to a
just
certain degree.
so you just realized that you just explained to me your map about something you dislike that's occurring in the world, and you also explained the reasons why you don't have any personal agency over it.
I think it's important to note. I mean, somebody who, like, if somebody tried I think a lot of people do this even online. It's a mistake of some people, like, look, I know I'm not going to be doing anything by saying what I'm saying right now on this podcast. I think there's like great knowledge in that factor that I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I don't know if it changes someone's mind who listens out there. There's positive effects that come from it. But at the same time, I know that there's some limitations. I don't know exactly where that is. I don't know where that falls on a scale, but I know there's some limitations from my best estimation. I guess, like, if I didn't know that limitation, I might, like, tire myself out, you know, going out there. And let's say I was like, tonight, I'm going to DC. Why do I know anybody in DC? And all of a sudden I'm out in DC and I'm like, I just know that this is where the president is, and I know this is where the Senate is. And then I get arrested because, like, I just stomp up to the Senate and I say, I'm going to go talk to somebody. Again, like, there's certain things that I guess protect ourselves from going to a point. And then you spent money on this flight. Do you know what I mean? There's limitations on it as an
So it's just
individual.
So what you're doing is you're just saying over and over now in new words these limitations on your map, right? And so we had said the map is not the territory. Your map is a representation, a static representation of life's events. It's also malleable and changeable. Do you like the way it looks right now? Do you like this specific aspect of these people who you believe can cause harm and your specific ability to not do anything about it? Do you like that view or do you want it to be different?
Well, I can control so many things in my life. Like there's things about myself that I work on changing, right? Because that's within my purview. That's something that I can do. I can put better I can like change my routine. I can try to do things to make me healthier, try to make me stronger in some capacity, learn new things. There are certain things outside of that I can't control. I can't control a genocide in another country. I can certainly like do little things like join groups that are doing a protest. I can maybe go work at a some charity that maybe like does like food drives and stuff. I can't stop it by myself though. Like if someone like was to tell me, "Well, just change it, stop it from happening," I'd say I can't. I hate that it's happening, but I can't stop it. I can only do so much. I have to work and make a living. I have to do this X, Y, and Z. We all have so many different responsibilities. I just think I don't think it's feasible to change something that you dislike out in the world by yourself. Like just snap your fingers and come up with a new way to go about things and present it and expect it to get adopted in some way. Like even an education
No, but
system.
I'm not saying
I
you need to do it yourself. I'm just saying you have a belief that something is happening based on specific experiences that you've had in your life, and that experience is malleable. It's not that you need to fix all of the world's problems, it's that you are having a specific internal and potentially emotional experience about something that, as you said, maybe you have no control over it, maybe you do. But just recognizing that that experience isn't based on any sort of material thought based on the territory of events. It's based on the two-dimensional static representation of events called the map, the belief system. It's like you have the computer screen in front of you, right? And it's got all these pixels and it's been created to have a display, right? Something shows up on the screen. What shows up on the screen is actually through this technology creating software. So you have the software and you have the hardware, and the hardware is the brain and the software is the belief system or the map. So if your software is saying this bad thing is happening and you have no control over it and you feel some type of way, the question is, do you want to have a different life experience? Even if you're seeing the same base reality, you can have a different conglomeration of your understanding of it that allows you to have a different life experience.
I would say there's some things though that are just innately a part of a person. Like for instance, somebody sees something or learns of something that's happening and they have a response of saying, "Oh, that sucks," and I hate that that's happening. I don't think there's any like. I don't think I'd even want it. Like, I think that's an important kind of like emotional basis to it's. Oh, I think ultimately it's okay to feel those things because it's just a part of the human experience. Now, it doesn't mean I'm happy to feel them when I do, but I think there is something that is you wouldn't want to just shave off that whole entire portion because it's inconvenient. Sometimes, you have to feel those things. And we live in a very sometimes
So you don't.
unforgiving
So you
world.
personally don't want it to change. You personally don't want to have a different experience.
Well, I guess it's very complicated, I think, because I think that like you can say that you wish you didn't have a certain feeling. But then you have that feeling and you recognize that there's something that's innately human about that emotion. And it's just a part of the human experience, you know? You see uh you know uh the, like, for instance, like a dead bird on the ground. Like I saw that like a week ago and I was like, this sucks, it's sad, you know what I mean? I'm not going to change my feelings about that because it's a human emotion. I wish that the bird didn't die, you know? But I was like, oh, that's kind of sad. And of course it wasn't like a response to, like, a human dying. It varies, you know what I mean? But I was like, oh, that's a sad sight, and it's also kind of like disgusting. You feel disgusted. You're like, oh, that sucks. You know what I mean? And then you move on with your day. But I'm not gonna, like, all of a sudden break it down and say I am going to eliminate, like, whenever I see a bird, I'm going to just, it's unpleasant, I'm going to cut that out of my whole entire worldview because it's inconvenient. It's just an innate response, to
So it just sounds like you
something.
like your worldview then, and that when people do stuff that you don't like, you're having the response you want, and then that's fine.
But I don't
Then
know
you're having
how,
the
like,
experience you want.
how could somebody, like, I don't think I could do that because, like, there's, like, it's just such a, like,
Do what?
it's an innate
Do what?
response, like, to like feel certain events differently that, like, are innately, like, tragic. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that I think there's something that, like, is innately human about it. It's not that it's like good. It's just that it's a part of the human experience, I suppose.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying about how your world works, and it seems like you think that that's you're describing your human experience as the human experience, the way humans experience it. And I might suggest that it's the way that you experience it. And if you like it, then don't question it anymore.
I don't know if
If
I
you
like it though. I mean, all I know is that, like, if it's natural to have, like, different responses to different things, to feel a certain
uh-huh,
way. It's natural to feel happy,
absolutely.
natural to feel angry, it's natural to feel sad, anxious, all these different things. And I don't know I don't know, like, if it would I don't know. I don't know if it would be beneficial to cut any of these out of my life. All I know is that, like, I'm a human being who experiences these things. And I know for a fact that other human beings experience them too. And, I guess there's even a philosophical argument for, if you didn't feel sadness, how would you feel happiness? If you didn't feel anger, how would you know what the, calm serenity of a nice peace is like? I don't know. Like, these are things that I can't even perceive of, like, what changing those things would look like, because it's just the experience that I live in. Would I like to change them? Maybe. I might like to change them, but I don't know. I don't know where to even begin on that level. That's so, like, changing an emotional response to something. I don't know if, like, all of a sudden it's a mechanical response in my head that I'm recognizing an emotion, suppressing it. Maybe, oh, but you can't suppress it, so I'm now shifting it to something else. I don't know. I don't know how that.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know how
fun.
that
It's fun to
is.
think about. It's fun to think about it. I think the what I got from one of my teachers was we're we are human beings. We have the capacity as an organism to just be growing and evolving as our natural state, right? To be growing, to be enriching our lives through the development of virtues, and to be engaging with the process of life, which is an evolution, a growth, and a death, right? So different organisms live harmoniously throughout nature, even if it is treacherous, right? There's the food pyramid, and there's the food web, and it's like animals get eaten by other animals, but they're living as part of this ecosystem, and they're also playing and participating in life, right? So, for example, the butterfly, it has this crazy mechanism where it's born as a caterpillar, it goes into this cocoon, the whole entire being turns into a goo, and then it molts and turns into a butterfly, something that flies, right? And if you were to ask one of these caterpillars, if you saw them on the ground and there was all these butterflies flying around up in the sky, and the caterpillar, you asked him how are you gonna go fly, bro? And he's like, okay, I gotta go meet some engineers. I'm gonna have to get some lightweight metal and maybe some sort of cloth to create my wings, right? I'm gonna mechanically develop my capacity for wings. But then his friend who got a good proper butterfly education is like, no, dude, you have to just trust the natural processes of life. You need to, when you're called to, you need to go do the cocoon thing and you're going to get your own natural wings. And what that makes me think is when you're saying, I don't know how it would be to have a different emotional experience, do I have to be cognitively aware? Do I need to manage this task as something I do specifically consciously? That makes me think of the caterpillar with the mechanical wings trying to manufacture it. Whereas I believe it's actually a natural process that might have been impeded through specific educational or societal social upbringings. And so it's a great start to be asking, how do I do this process? Because it's not like the app store when you go on to the store and you're like checking for updates on your app. It's not like life is updating your apps all the time, but you can also contact the developer, your subconscious mind, to say like, hey, I want to learn more about this. What is it like to have a different emotional experience? And to be developing, basically when you think about something and you ask questions about something, your brain changes. It creates new connections of electricity that allow you to think about that stuff better and more clearly over time. So just thinking about it, questioning it, changes your brain to allow you to get better and to think more clearly about this subject. So it's this, I believe it's personally, it's like, if you want to participate in the natural evolution of life that's built into the DNA, you want to ask these questions and allow life to actually happen the way it's naturally supposed to, because the mechanical wings thing doesn't allow you to become actually a butterfly.
I don't think it would be like
fly
mechanical necessarily, but I don't know if like for everybody it's necessarily something that they're actively looking for to not like experience. Like, I don't know, like it depends on the perception of what is a bad emotion. Someone might say that it's bad to be sad. That might be a blanket statement. I don't know. I don't know, like, I don't know if you could tell that person will feel something different or think about how you're feeling that and just change it. Like, that person might say, well, I don't know how to change it. And then someone might say, well, just think about how to, like, I don't know if everyone could operate in that way. Cause then it does become mechanical. There's almost like this, like, strange
No,
way
you haven't figured it out yet. You haven't figured it out yet. It doesn't have to be mechanical.
That might just be it. I might never figure it out. I don't know, like, how I process emotions has changed over time. But I don't think the crux of how I feel those emotions have changed over time. I would say, like, the feeling of a sadness, the feeling of, like, feeling down, feeling happy. I would say maybe, like, my relation to those emotions might have changed. How I perceive them might have changed because of my life experiences and things that I have done in the past and what I can recall on as far as those emotions, the events that those emotions are attached to. but I don't think the core of what that emotion is has changed for me at all, because it still has that familiar scent that never goes away. The familiar scent of a sadness, the familiar scent of being happy, the familiar scent of like being angry. There's something that lingers that just is omnipresent, because it's the basis almost of that emotion, the core of it. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, uh, that's yeah. It's just the experience you're having. I mean, it's. I'm not even suggesting that you need to specifically have a different experience of emotions. I'm mainly just talking about having an experience and having a preference to have a different experience. And then the process of moving towards the one you do want to have it be your experience. And it's starting out with recognizing that you have your perspective, which has the possibility of being enhanced. Like
I
your
think I'm
perspective
constantly
can be
evolving. Like
enhanced.
I don't think there's been a year
Spe-
where I'm the same, like ever.
enhanced enhanced specifically based on your conscious preference.
But
I
I
think
don't know
that's
what
an
that
important.
is. Like I guess maybe that's another like factor. I don't know what that is. All I know is that I'm changing every single year, and I don't know what I'm learn new information. I take it in like a sponge. I process the information. Things happen to me. I feel a certain way about these events, and I just keep going year after year. I don't know what direction I'm going in. I try to make healthy habits. I try to do good things, but I don't know. I
So
just I don't
you
know.
don't know what your conscious you don't know what your preference is.
No. Maybe that's the main problem here, because I don't
Interesting.
know. I don't know what that is. I
That's
know that like
interesting.
I know there's good things that like I should strive to do, like eat healthy, continue good eating habits, go to the gym more often, get more exercise in, um, try to sometimes be more positive about certain things. Try to like, there's certain things that like are like in there, but I don't know if there's like an exact preference that I'm going for as far as who I want to look like be, I guess, on a cognitive level. I don't know.
Yeah, it does. I don't think it has to be some picture that you have defined. I think if you knew specifically how you want to be and how you want to act, I believe that's the mechanical wings talking. I think it's just having a preference towards something that you are constantly refreshing in your mind. Am I moving towards what I want? And it might be as simple as, do I want to experience the human experience to its fullest? It could be, I want to experience what life through the lens of what is my highest good. What's the best possible thing that could be possible for me in my life? It could be any number of things. I'm just saying, as something that's a possibility for futures, is that you can uh, ask questions of your subconscious mind. You know, the mind that's acting as the most powerful influence over your life's experience and your actions. It it's it's so powerful. It's controlling your breathing. It's controlling all the thoughts that are happening in the background. It's processing things that happened earlier today. You're not even conscious of it at all. But you can interface with the unconscious, with your conscious mind, with just simply asking questions. Am I doing this? Am I doing this? How can I do this better? And it's just asking the question like opens up like a new branch into processing things. And it can be a participatory thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm not saying anything. I'm not commenting specifically on your view of the world and your experience of the world, or saying that it should be different in any way. I think I'm just speaking a lot about the worldview, its specific way that it exists, and the potentiality for it to evolve, um, using certain strategies. That's pretty much what I'm just talking about.
Okay, yeah. See, I guess it's just that I don't know, like, talking about like direction or like preference. I guess I just don't know what that looks like for me, you know? I don't think I plan that far ahead with like how I am as a person or like personality wise. I don't think I don't think I'm planning that far ahead. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like purposely adjusting my behavior to be something that I want to be. I don't know. I guess I just kind of like I guess I just kind of exist. Like I know there's things that like inform like who I am, like you know my life experience. Everyone has a certain amount, you know, of just things in their life that have influenced them and have made them who they are today. But other than that, like I don't know. All I know is that like you know I'm a collection of just different experiences throughout my life, and somehow I ended up like this, and that's kind of it. That's all I know. Like every year I change a little bit sometimes. Over the course of 5 years, I change even more. If I look back, the farther back I look, the more the change becomes apparent. But I don't know where that change is going. Like I don't know like if I'm supposed to have some kind of like a wheel that I have perfect control over, because I can tell you for a fact I don't. The ship's going where it's going. I've got the sail going and spinning and doing like crazy things, and I'm just going off. I don't know where it's going. I don't know if that's bad or good, but that's how it is right now, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you can you get to have whatever point of view based on these perceptions that you have about what's going on.
But what if
You get to play with it.
But that sounds like I have like cuz like maybe I just haven't been taking that much of an active role in it. I don't know if
No,
more
but
people
I
do.
think
Maybe some
I
people.
think I think maybe I don't know how to talk about this stuff, because basically what I'm saying is you have you as an existence right now, right? You exist the way you exist. You have a perception of the way you exist, which might be something else is driving the ship and it's going all over, and you don't know how to properly tie the sails, right? You said it in different words. You are using a ship's analogy to describe a natural process that it has an infinite amount of complexity to it. So it might be different if you say, hey, my life is going in this specific way in an unknown direction, although it also might be a very natural evolution of a human being in their 20s, right? This might be the most natural thing possible, even if it feels like I'm not driving the ship.
Well, I mean, I guess I've
And
never thought about it like a ship until you mentioned like having a preference. Cuz I guess that's like in response to like, you know, your what the I can't remember what you said it was. It was something your something preference.
your something preference, yeah. I don't know. I'm just making up the terminology as I go on, but yeah,
Well, like
just
yeah,
a
your preference.
perception. Yeah, of your preference.
Yeah, I guess like maybe I don't think I put that much thought into it. I kind of just have been I wouldn't even have thought of this sail ship example, because to me I know that I change over time, but I'm not like there's no conception of anything when it comes to like me having control over steering the direction of that change. I just know that like
That's
I
so
try
interesting.
I try and
That's
have like I have goals. I have a little like positive like I want to be more like this. I have like a moral basis that follows me and learns more things as it goes. And then there's an information sector and it just but I'm not thinking like I want to be like this like 5 years from now, or I want to be like this, or I want to behave like this, I want to perceive things like this. I more so think I know I'm going to be changing. I know this is what I think now. I know that I have some moral basis for things. I want to be a good person. I don't want to do bad things. If I can, I'd love to try to help people. I also don't want to like, spend all my time not taking care of myself, so I have to take care of myself. These are just vague things that float around in my brain of like what I'd like to do, but I don't know. That's it. They're just like floating ideas, I think, is how I'd describe them.
yeah, and you could develop a process to interact with the floating ideas in a way that might create more coherence in the way those abstract ideas manifest themselves as a reality in your life. With that being said, I'm not saying that the ultimate thing is to be driving the ship and to having your plan for 5 years and knowing your specific actions. That's actually the exact opposite of what I'm talking about. That's the mechanical wings. That's the planning for the future. What I'm talking about is trusting the natural process of life. It's about trusting the natural process of life and recognizing that your life changes and you might benefit from asking, how am I responding to these changes and what sort of direction do I want to guide my changes toward? And it could just be what is completely natural for you and like your beingness. Like that's that's a very fair and something that is not contrived in any way. Whereas if you're thinking of anything about creating the future that is contrived, you can automatically think this is mechanical wings talking. This is a caterpillar who had to do bad business to get rich in order to hire an engineer to get wings when they could have gotten it for free if they followed the natural path of life. Right? It's just a question and a way of interfacing with life's experiences. It's just your mind has to do something, and if it's not engaged in evolution, it might be engaged in whatever the world puts on your plate, and a lot of it's just garbage.
I mean, I think that's what
So,
I've been doing. I mean, I know that I've changed. That's like over the years. I think most people do. I'd hope that no one is still the same as they were when they were like a toddler. And some people, when they get older, they might even stagnate to a certain point. Maybe then they do stop doing that. Maybe that's a whole. I don't know how often that occurs. I know you'll find people who don't change very often when they get older. Even like
yeah,
personality
sadly,
wise,
it's
some things
happening.
just become concrete. But
Sadly, that's yeah, I think you'd be surprised on the amount of people doing it.
I guess so. I mean, I know that like I don't know. I think I've been following the natural course. I don't really notice it. I just can think of myself 5 years ago. And then again, I don't have much of a long existence to really recall on. All I know is I'm 26 now. 5 years ago, I was 21. Much different person, just over 5 years.
5 years,
I don't know though if that
2019.
changes for somebody who's reflecting on like being 40 to like they're 45. I don't know if they have some kind of different experience. Maybe there's less change because they're older at that point. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting topic. I studied with somebody that I worked with them for like 5 years, and like that's the whole topic of our discussion was this point of view changing, natural evolution of life. That's like, yeah, spent a long time thinking about this stuff.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
How long have we been going on the pod here? Looks like we
So maybe 2:15.
yeah, I think 2:15. You're right. Yeah. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys all for
Jackie
watching.
Robinson.
Wait, what's that?
Shout out Jackie Robinson. He was number 42 in baseball.
How long ago?
I don't know.
Was he like an older guy, like back in the years of like Ichiro?
Oh my God, no! You don't know who Jackie Robinson is?
It sounds familiar, but no, I don't know the exact like.
He
I
was
can't
like
put
the
a face.
first black player to play in the MLB. He was like the first black player.
Oh, okay. Then that must have been a long time ago. Then, right? Is that?
Yeah, dude, I can't believe I don't know Jackie Robinson. First game was April 15th, 1947.
Damn, that is an old game.
Yeah, Jackie. World War II had ended, and he played baseball, man.
Well, shout out to him, and shout out to Topo Chico. Not sponsored, but I feel like we shouldn't just be giving away free shout outs without actual, like, you know, someone sponsoring the show. I shouldn't have said it was Topo Chico. I should have said, oh, I know this brand, but oh well, it's too late now. If they're feeling generous, they can always slide us some money on the side if they see this episode. And there's still zero people, by the way.
Yeah.
I forgot to say in the middle of the show.
Bye.
But goodbye,
everyone. Bye.
Oh, 1 second. My hand isn't by the end button. I need to like. Oh no. Okay, now we can end. I need to get a shortcut. Goodbye.